Hello, everybody. Welcome to Dumpster Fire Theater. Today is episode 3, and we will be talking about raids from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, as well as Pokemon Sword and Shield. And I am joined today by DJ.
Yes. My name is. I go by DJ. My username is DXJXC.
Pretty much
Uh,
everywhere.
yeah.
And I'm also joined by Rylot.
Hello.
Hello.
I've got nothing to add to this segment, just I am here.
Yes, and I am your host, Secret Agent P, the very channel you are watching this on or listening. So, before we get into the actual topic today, I want to remind everyone this show is brought to you by you by clicking that like button, leaving a comment, and subscribing to feed the algorithm God. He is hungry.
He demands tribute.
All the tributes.
Also, you need to ring the bell so he doesn't reach through the monitor and isekai you into a raid when you have no Pokemon.
Oh god, that'd be awful. Now, on to the topic at hand. So, Pokemon raids were introduced in Sword and Shield to be a co-op experience, but also be like a bombastic, exciting thing, right? And they came back in Scarlet and Violet. Now, I think I mentioned before, I haven't played Sword and Shield, so I never experienced raids until Scarlet and Violet. So there's going to be some differences, and we're going to talk about them today. But the first topic, well, the first point we're going to talk about today is how the raids are not turn-based. Or they're turn-based, but they're not turn-based. So you want to start us off on that?
Yeah, the whole non-turn-based turns things is kind of weird. Yeah, especially because there seems to be a little bit of a desync or connectivity issue where, like, suddenly you won't be able to make any inputs for a little while the fight goes on, which is very frustrating. I don't know if anyone else has experienced that kind of technical difficulty.
It's kind of plaguing the game. But, I mean, I guess to make the point, I feel like what they were trying to emulate was the combat style from the Final Fantasy games, where it's kind of turn-based, kind of not, where it's essentially if you have the ability to do something, you get to do it, but it tries to act like it's in an order, which is fine if there wasn't server issues or technical issues or a series of things just plaguing just Scarlet and Violet for the moment.
Yeah, hopefully they get some of that improved a little bit. Because, like, we didn't have these kinds of issues with Sword and Shield, not nearly as badly anyway.
Out of recently playing Sword and doing a variety of different raids in the game, I never felt like I lost a turn. And between the technical issues with Scarlet and Violet, the weird glitchy nature of Nintendo servers, and the fact that like they feel this need to make sure that you have to sit through every single animation, you have to read every single text box, and there's no way to accelerate them, and there's no way to turn them off. You're forced to sit there and watch it all, and even if you're playing the game wirelessly with friends, sorry, give me a second, DJ. There is desync, huge desync. Okay, go.
Yeah, I haven't noticed so much with I haven't noticed so much with the having to sit through other people's text boxes. It's mostly the text boxes only for yours and for the raid Pokemon. So, in that regard, it's basically it's no more text than a one-on-one battle.
You say that, but you're still kind of waiting on it though, because it's like all stacking on top of each other and delaying it. That's what it feels like to me.
Could be.
I honestly feel like it's adding to the desync issue with players because you never know if it's just because they're waiting to skip through their animations and their text boxes, or if the game is just struggling to keep everything together.
One cool thing that I've noticed about the whole non-turnedness is that like I can hover over my move, but then I can wait to receive like an attack cheer or a helping hand before actually confirming the move and using it in order to get a bonus. So that's kind of cool.
The most annoying thing for me is when it comes to my turn, and I can do options, and I click, okay, let's go to battle. Let's hover over a move, and then before I can click it, it completely disappears.
Yeah, that's really annoying when your menu disappears so that the raid Pokemon can do an animation.
And then it kills your whatever you planned on doing for 3 turns in a row, and it's like, well, what I was going to do is far too late now.
Yeah, potentially.
Okay. Any more things to add about it being non-turn based?
Um, I think I like the idea of it being swapped just because you can stack moves and really work together as a team. I feel like turn-based could work if they added a couple other functions to it, but as is, I think the idea of it's pretty cool. The problem is technical issues that are plaguing it.
If it worked correctly, I I I could like it, but it's not working right now. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, one thing that I wonder about with the non-turn based ness is whether or not is like how it works with things like priority moves and flinch. Because normally you need to go first in order to get a flinch, but like speed doesn't really seem to be an issue because turn order isn't really a thing. Also, priority again, turn order not really being a thing. I have noticed some slight things with speed. Nobody seems to care about speed too much when you're building your raid Pokemon. We'll talk about that more later. But I have noticed that my faster Pokemon like tend to act before the raid Pokemon more often. But like it's weird because of again the non-turn based turns.
So, to add on to that, I'm pretty sure what the game itself is doing is putting a queue on everything that's happening for that round, and based on its speed slash priority type move, it's essentially reordering the moves to follow that.
That could be it. Okay.
Especially since you have them stealing charges from your orb, or debuffing you, or buffing themselves, applying shield, etc.
So, the fail condition or the timer.
It's definitely an improvement in my opinion over Sword and Shield, especially because the AIs don't they don't count against the timer.
So,
And of course this is also why there's the non-turn based turns is because of timer. It's weird.
in Scarlet and Violet, there's a timer, and when the timer runs out, we're all kicked out of the raid, and when Pokemon faint, they go away for 5 seconds and then come back, and it reduces time from the timer, and that adds up to 10 seconds and 15 seconds. How is that different in Sword and Shield?
Why don't you do it, Marlon?
Okay. So, with Sword and Shield, it's based on how many Pokemon have fainted. And unlike in Scarlet and Violet, where your teammates don't contribute to it, in Sword and Shield, your AI companions do contribute to it. And the big problem with the way that Sword and Shield handled it was the fact that they decided to allow baby tier Pokemon to exist at higher tier raids.
That is a problem.
And it, yes, very much so.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, actually, let's go ahead and start talking about that now. We'll move that up in our
Queue.
talking point.
All right.
Okay, let's go.
Yeah, no, okay, so yeah, the AI that helped you out in Sword and Shield was terrible. They would bring things like Togepi's with Life Dew and Chanseys with me or with Follow Me, and that basically be the only thing that they do. They would bring Wobbuffet and keep getting one-shotted and do nothing. It was they were basically useless in 5-star raids. Whereas in Scarlet and Violet, they're bringing fully evolved Pokemon that seem to be at about the same level as the raid Pokemon. They're not always very type effective, but they're overall the Pokemon and strategies that they're employing are much better than they used to be in Sword and Shield. So that's a nice quality of life improvement.
So I remember when Sword and Shield came out, and I remember you bitching about this back then, and I remember you saying you wish you could just do the raids by yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, because especially in Sword and Shield, as opposed to Scarlet and Violet, another nice improvement. In Sword and Shield, the AIs who brought baby Pokemon, their deaths counted towards the death or their KOs counted towards the countdown before you got kicked out of the raid. And so, of course, since there was 3 of them, the raid Pokemon could use one move, wipe out 3 of them. That's 3 out of 4 KOs before you get kicked out of the raid.
That's awful.
Which was terrible. In Scarlet and Violet, the AIs getting KO'd don't reduce the timer, which is very helpful.
So, I will say it is very helpful, but Game Freak decided that they, I guess, felt the need to reduce the damage that your AI companions did in Scarlet and Violet compared to Sword and Shield, where when I was here doing a lot of the Sword and Shield raids, the AI, when they brought in fully evolved Pokemon, sometimes just did more damage than I did. And it was kind of surprising and honestly really nice. And the big thing is that even if you got knocked out in Sword and Shield, the AI kept playing. They kept doing their own stuff. It didn't matter to them. Unlike in Scarlet and Violet, where if you get KO'd, the AI just sits around and does nothing.
Yeah, that's a little annoying, but I feel like that's the trade-off for them not being they're not a penalty. You're soloing the raid, and they're just here to help.
I never noticed
which is
that they don't do anything.
which is basically all I wanted in Sword and Shield because of how useless they were, and now they're actually more helpful. Mostly, we'll talk about that in a minute. So now they're mostly more helpful, and they don't count as a penalty. So
We'll say it sucks for the players that aren't good at building raid Pokemon, because it literally leaves everything on them to do damage. And I know this is a later topic, but the shield mechanic in Scarlet and Violet feels more punishing.
Well, also something that's really annoying about the timer is the animations. Like when you terrastalize and you're just watching the animation playing, but the timer just keeps ticking down the entire. I'm not even watching my Pokemon terrastalizing. I just watch the timer tick down while I'm terrastalizing.
Yes.
Like, oh my god, why can't I skip this animation? Or heaven forbid the raid Pokemon uses a move like Curse or something, or
status effects.
or has Armor Break or something where it goes through like 3 stat changes and it has to give me the text for all 3 or sometimes 5 stat changes one after another instead of just speeding. Hey, these things increased, these things decreased. Okay, continue. It's like, nope, the attack increased, the defense increased, the speed decreased. It's all of those one after the other, and again, just watching the timer tick down. But yeah, and then the shield comes up. Who wants to talk about that first?
I'm sorry, I was playing with something I noticed on my webcam. Um, what was I gonna say? I had something to say to that, and I got distracted by myself.
Yeah, constant stat changes, I feel, needs to be also fixed in the game because I hate sitting through that stuff. Arceus fixed it. Arceus fixed it, and then it came back. Okay, go Rylat.
It's not streamlined at all,
Oh,
and
no.
I think that's the biggest issue. They could have easily have just changed like the simple text box to just like a pop-up on screen that just listed everything down and then just gone. They could have just had the terrorization just instant, the curse instant, like because none of it is streamlined, it's painful.
Yeah, so slow, so painful.
Now let's talk about the most aggravating part to me, and I mean this wholeheartedly, the freaking shield. I'm very passionate about this. I hate that thing so much. Ugh. So, for those who don't know, in Scarlet and Violet, once the Pokemon's taken enough damage, a shield comes up, and the shield kind of reduces the damage it takes, from what I can tell. And if you don't terrestrialize your Pokemon to keep up with it, it's going to take longer to break down that shield. And I might also be missing something else from it. Do you guys want to add anything?
As far as how the mechanics go, I feel like that's everything.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't really know how the shield like works mechanically. Like, I don't know if it counts as like if it's multiplying their defensive stats, or if the shield has like its own denser HP bar or something like that. But it's probably a defense boost because it feels like it feels like that like a Pokemon that could have two-shotted it with regular HP can't even two-shot just the shield. Then you have to terrestrialize in order to yeah, like you do more damage to the shield when you terrestrialize. Like, for some reason that's just a mechanic, which I guess I get. This is actually one problem with the AI, is that the AI doesn't terrestrialize. But also, unlike Sword and Shield, where only one person could Gigantamax, now everybody who isn't an AI can terrestrialize. I keep calling it Gigantamax. I mean Dynamax.
So I freaking hate when I do my best to try to one-shot it, and then it looks like I do, but then the health comes back and it has a shield, and now I can't one-shot the shield. In fact, it probably removed my stat changes, which we'll get to. It'll also steal your Terror Orb charge, making it take longer for you to terrestrialize and break through the damn shield.
Right? Like, it already takes not just 3 turns, 3 attacks in order to terrestrialize. Which is and it's so annoying when it takes a terror charge away from you, and now it takes 4 or heaven forbid 5 turns in order to no, not turns, attacks in order to terrestrialize.
I have some very strong feelings about it being only attacks. It should be number of moves you do, because if you're playing as a support role, you are punished for playing a support role. Because when everything gets reset and everyone has to like rebuff, it's like, oh, I have an attacking move and I can help start chipping it down because what else is there to do? But because I'm not attacking, I do the base minimum damage as is, and it is frustrating.
Yeah, the shield is probably the one thing that the Sword and Shield AI was more useful than the Scarlet and Violet AI. Because at least in Sword and Shield, the shield that's a little bit of a confusing sentence. The raid shield, it wasn't HP or damage based. It was just number of hits. So even if they normally only hit for 5 damage, that would break one of its 7 or 9 or however many shields it had, depending on the difficulty. Shields. So yeah, but in Scarlet and Violet, if they normally only deal 5 damage, now they're rounding up to 1 with the shield, but the shield makes up for like 30% of its HP. So instead of doing 5% of its HP, it's doing 1% of its HP, or maybe even less, because frankly, it feels like it's less sometimes. And again, the AI can't terrestrialize, which significantly increases shield damage. Yeah. So.
Yeah, no.
Well, yeah, and then also in Sword and Shield, who could Dynamax just rotate it each turn, so it was every 4 turns you had a chance to Dynamax, which was a little bit annoying. Because you may want to be saving your Dynamax for when a shield comes up, because you could deal 2 shields worth of damage and break it faster, which was okay. But anyway, but yeah,
to interject real quick. The one thing with shields that I greatly disliked in Sword and Shield, and one of the reasons that really turned me off of raiding, was multi-hit moves only took 1 bar away.
That's understandable, though. It'd be a little busted if they could break multiple shields.
No. I'm with Rylot. Well, I didn't play it. Multi-hit moves, in my opinion, kind of suck anyway. So let them be good at something. Okay.
But go ahead and continue.
At least they're equally good in Scarlet and Violet shields.
Oh, useless.
Oh. Another thing to add too that I prefer with the sword and shielding, was that when it broke, it did HP damage.
Well, now the shield also represents a portion of their HP, so it kind of does still, if you think about it.
But it would also be nice considering how slow it turns the match.
It does. If you don't have a super effective Terra type, then yeah, it really does. It really, really does.
The match just grinds to a halt sometimes, and I hate it. Okay. Anything else to say about the shields?
It's also really annoying when you were depending on a secondary type for resistance, but then you need to terrestrialize in order to get to the shield. But now you get KO'd twice as fast because you lost the resistance.
Yep.
I will say the big difference mechanically between Scarlet Violet, Sword and Shield with the shield mechanic is that in Sword and Shield, the Pokemon can obtain multiple phases where they can throw up a shield, while in Scarlet and Violet, it was a one-time deal.
And thank God for that.
Yeah.
Also in Sword and Shield, as opposed to Scarlet and Violet, you could not one-shot Pokemon in Sword and Shield. Their HP would stop when it was time for their shields to come up.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so since the higher difficulty raids had 2 points in its HP when it was supposed to put up its shields, that's basically what it was. They just became 3-shot Pokemon. They were always 3 shots plus however many shields they had.
But it's so satisfying to one-shot a raid.
It really is. And so yeah, that's definitely an improvement there.
Okay.
Yeah.
The way that
but
works.
I will say it was also faster than having to contend with this shield in Scarlet and Violet. Like, yeah, you had to sit there and hit the shield like 5 times, but if you're a Gigantamax to begin with, you're already burning through 2 blocks out of the 5, and it just felt like it took less time to get through multiple phases than it does with just the way Scarlet and Violet plays out.
It's such a wall.
But is it really a bad thing if a raid takes more time and effort than
Not when it kills the flow.
The flow.
Yeah, the shield really does kill the flow, yeah.
Yeah.
And if we could do status effects through that shield still, not that you could in Sword and Shield, mind you, but if you could at least do some sort of status effect normally, it wouldn't grind it to a halt.
Yeah, you.
Yeah,
Once that
especially
shield's up, you
because of
can't
our
do
next
anything.
topic.
Yes.
Sorry, what?
Once what I found out the hard way that status effects don't mean shit once that shield's up.
Mm.
I wasted so many turns early on before I'm like, oh yeah, this just doesn't work. But yes. Next topic though. No. The buffs and debuffs and resetting them, and I hate it. I'm already a player that even though I've been playing since Red and Blue, I was always like, ooh, flamethrower, ooh, earthquake, and I didn't want to deal with status effect moves, and only recently have I started to, and I see the benefit of them, especially for raids. But to spend 3 turns or 2 turns like bumping up my stats to have it go away, it's aggravating.
Yeah, but no, what's especially aggravating is that when the shield goes up, they also immediately remove all of their debuffs. Mm-hmm. So if you had lowered their defense in order to one-shot them down to less than half, well, now not only is their shield that's already harder to break slowing you down, but they also removed all of those debuffs, and you can't reapply them. So now they so now they went from being a 2-shot to an impenetrable wall.
Okay. Yeah. I will say that in Sword and Shield, like, stat changes were also removed, but it also didn't feel nearly as intrusive, if that makes sense.
I can't remember. In Sword and Shield, would they remove your own buffs, or just the debuffs that were put on them?
You know, I never used any Pokemon that actually self-buffed because of the multiple phases. So,
yeah,
I never bothered to actually check that point.
Yeah, because I suppose, the buffs were actually kind of useless in Sword and Shield raids, because, again, they were 3 shots except for the shield phases, which your stat buffs didn't actually help with, so there was no reason to.
Yeah. I thought about something that I want to save for the end.
Okay, so I guess there isn't much else to say about that.
It is really, really annoying when you belly drum, and then they hit you and then they remove the buff immediately. It's like, oh, I guess I just got to give him half my HP for free.
I'm not gonna lie. If I'm playing solo when that happens, I just run and then restart, because you might as well.
Yeah, almost.
Okay. So,
Rayla, you had one last thing to say at the end of this, or was it for a different topic?
I got lost in typing up notes. As far as like the shield stuff goes, that's pretty much my opinion.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So we talked about the AI allies already. How about the random allies online compared to playing with your friends? Because playing with randos online, God, it's so annoying when they bring out like a dragon type against a fairy type.
Or they'll bring a dragon type against a dragon type.
And it's so funny because when you play the game, several people will be like, "Oh, you're a good trainer because you took advantage of the type advantages." And then I'm like, it's obvious that's how you play Pokemon. But then you get online with these random people and they don't know type advantages, and it just makes me want to pull my hair out. You go.
Or what else will be really annoying is like, okay, so let's say that it's let's say that it's a water type, but it has the grass terra type. And so the randoms online will be like, oh, it's a grass terra type. I should bring my fire type. And then proceed to get one-shotted by all of the water type moves that this water type Pokemon knows.
I have something I need to interject, and this is something you and I experienced, where we had a raid where it was a Chorkle, or yeah, yeah, and we're like, oh, it was a grass type, right? And we're like,
it was a grass terra type.
Yeah, and we're like, oh yeah, we'll just bring a fire type against this. This will be easy. And then Flame Body.
Our fire types will resist its fire type moves. This will be great.
Yeah.
Oh my god, body. Really?
Yeah. And so it's like, oh, we just buffed it. Oh no.
Yeah. Right?
That sounds amazing. I wish I could have been there.
Yeah. During the Charizard raids, this was super frustrating. Somebody brought Koraidon. I was playing with randoms online, and somebody brought Koraidon. Now, you may, if you haven't done the 7-star Charizard raids, let me tell you, Charizard has solar power. He becomes stronger if there's sunlight. Koraidon, it's basically drought on steroids. It creates sunlight. So and then also because he's a dragon type, and guess what? This was a dragon type raid. I told you people weren't very good at this. He would get one-shotted by Dragon Pulse, a buffed Dragon Pulse because he had solar power. So he would get one-shotted every turn. If I tried making it rainy so that Charizard got lost his solar power buff, the Koraidon would still get one-shotted by Dragon Pulse, and then when it got sent back down, reset the sunlight. So that was the fastest loss that I've ever experienced in online, all because somebody else decided that they were going to buff the 7-star raid instead of actually help.
It's also part fighting, right? So the flying moves would also get it too.
Yeah, wasn't even an issue though because of the Dragon Terra typing but yeah, just in case, there was also Hurricane, so there was that. But yeah, and also annoyingly, that was the host of the raid that brought the Koraidon. So that guy just decided, you know what, I'm gonna waste 3 people's time.
Lovely.
But not very much time, because that was like a 15-second loss. It was ridiculous.
15 seconds, you say?
Yeah, no, it was seriously, it was a fast loss. It kept one-shotting all 4 of us. Our time was dropping like a stone.
Wow.
That's rough.
But yeah, playing with friends, especially if you can communicate with them online, or over the phone or on chat or something like that. God, I wish that there was a chat for the randoms.
Yeah.
Part of me is like, yeah, but then part of me is like, oh no. No.
It would be nice if we had a way of being able to party up with randoms and being able to communicate with them, because if they are new players,
helping would be nice.
Yeah, just for instance saying hey, fairy types would be really good because it makes them immune to dragon types, and you really only have to worry about fire. But that's why Pokemon like Sylveon exists that can just tank for days.
This is also Nintendo, and they hate party chat.
They really do. But no, I was just thinking, not even so much as giving them tips and tricks, but just to coordinate. If because I've had situations, even during the Charizard raid, where we all sent out literally the exact same Pokemon, and I'm like, okay, which one of us is setting up light screen?
No one.
Yeah, trick question. No one. It's like, oh, okay. I assumed that at least one of the 4 of us would set up light screen, so I didn't go for it. I guess I'll set up light screen. It's like, so everybody else is going to do something like fake tears, right? No, literally nobody did fake tears, even though if everybody had done fake tears, we would only have had to have done that for 1 turn. But no.
It's always going to pick the greedy option because they don't know what the other person's going to do. And if there was a way to see what your teammates queued up as a move off to the side of the screen.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah, but you can only see what move that they're using as they're using it, which, yeah, and because this also ties into the fact that it's not turn-based,
Oh, yeah.
so it's not like everybody selects a move and then they happen.
So, like, it gives you the ability to at least determine if they're going to use light screen or belly drum. Just having that icon pop off to the side is just like, oh, okay, they're doing belly drum. I'll click light screen.
Exactly.
That sounds great. If only Game Freak would do that. They're not, though.
No, they probably won't.
No.
No.
Okay.
But yeah, that's definitely an advantage to playing with friends. Now, if only if it were possible to play with friends, but have the rest of your group, the team, filled in with randoms. That was a problem that we encountered where Rylot and we couldn't handle a Charizard with just the two of us. But we also couldn't go online with two of us and find two more people. Rylot had to basically just have three randoms, and I didn't get to participate. But that was fine because I did so many Charizard raids that weekend. I have hundreds of calcium. It's ridiculous.
This point isn't actually on the bullet point, but now's probably a good time to talk about it. The Charizard raid itself.
Yeah.
I participated in it with you, DJ.
Yeah. Yeah, we did it at least once with just friends. And yeah, it was actually kind of hard. Of course, that was also literally the first time that we did the Charizard raid, and whereas as the event went on,
it got easier.
Kept building better Pokemon for it.
Yeah, I brought a Azumarill, which I didn't realize I didn't actually give it its hidden ability yet, and that would have made the fight easier.
That probably would have made the fight a little bit easier.
Yeah. But as an event, I liked it. I don't like how you could only catch one. I don't understand why they put that limitation on it. I don't see a point, but
yeah, I don't see much point in that, honestly, because we could just breed them.
Yeah.
Well, it mainly probably for the title. Also, I can kind of see it as well where they want you to participate for the max IV version. It's like if you didn't participate, then you're either gonna have to trade for babies or like do the grinding yourself with whatever babies you can get a hold of.
But that just
I could also see the one or being able to just catch one thing being a good precedent to set for if they ever decide to put out some legendary or mythic Pokemon 7-star raids.
That could be interesting for legendaries, but I also just feel like it's a needless restriction.
Yeah.
Like okay, so there's this thing with games where it becomes, do we just let the players have fun, or do we put a restriction on it because we just kind of feel it needs it? And this is one of those things where I feel like they should have just let it go.
I feel like I feel like game developers should really pay attention to what happened with XCOM 2 and the community feedback. Because that's a story that developers really, a lesson that developers really need to learn.
Can you give a 5-sentence summary?
Give us any context on that, because that just kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah, well, so in the first game, for those that don't know what XCOM is, it's essentially kind of like D&D, where you take a character, you set them up, and you do an ability.
It's a tactics game.
It's a tactics game. And the developers watched everyone playing the first XCOM game. They're like, wow, everyone's playing this really, really safe. We want people to get aggressive. So in the second game, they decided to introduce turn-based timers. And not only did they include turn-based timers into every match you played, they also set a massive timer for the entire campaign. So if you didn't do certain milestones in time, you lost the entire campaign and had to restart from scratch.
Wow.
That sounds really unfun.
Yeah, people were so outraged by this that the game developers were like, wait, why aren't you enjoying playing the game the way we want you to play the game?
And did they fix that ever?
Nope.
Oh, cool. So this is why we don't have XCOM 3 then.
Well, they did War of the Chosen, which kind of redid the entire game, and it fixed some of those issues. Not all of it, because they're really hell-bent on keeping timers, but...
Okay. So, the game developers really do need to listen to the fans, and some of them do, others hate talking to the fans. Mainly Platinum right now, but that's a whole other story. So, overall, I liked the Charizard raid. I just wish we could have caught more.
I really feel like the catching multiples is not the hill to die on.
No, and I'm not dying on it. I'm just saying I would have liked to have just been able to catch more.
I mean, it's just I mean, but then it's like, oh, it's like, oh man, I only caught 5 when I could have caught 38.
But it's also only available for like 3 days.
Right, exactly.
And it's limited. It's just,
so if you caught 1, then you caught as many as you were going to need, and you don't feel like you missed out on getting a bunch.
You're arguing with my simple opinion that I'm not willing to die on this hill, and I stated that.
Okay.
So we can just move on.
Okay.
I will say one thing, though. It's somewhat related to this. I also really just dislike the fact that the Tyranitar and Salamence raids came and went so fast that I completely forgot they were even happening, because there was nothing on Nintendo side or Game Freak side to like remind us.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
It was last weekend. It lasted for 3 days, just like Charizard. But yeah, it came and went pretty quick.
I wish I had known.
I told you about it. I'm pretty sure you were not interested because they weren't version exclusive. They were only 5 stars.
Oh, well then I don't care.
Exactly. That's what you told me when I told you about them last weekend.
Cool. Now we're all caught up.
Rylot's point was that he was barely aware of them before they came and went, because there really wasn't much advertising for them. Like, unless you're checking the Pokemon news, or if you've got like a PokeTuber that you're subscribed to telling you about these things, then yeah, it could have been a little bit easier to miss. But yeah, like it was mentioned in the Pokemon news, or at least a few days ahead on the if you check the news on the Poke Portal. I think it's kind of a pain in the ass to navigate.
It is.
That's a separate topic, though.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about finding the dens in the first place to do the so-called raids.
I think we skipped one.
We'll get back to that in a moment then.
Okay.
So finding dens. It's pretty simple. They're everywhere and they respawn a lot. My complaint with them is I wish we could tell what star they are or Pokemon they were from the map.
Yeah, well, I don't necessarily care about knowing what Pokemon they are, but at least knowing what star they are. I do like that they show up on the map. That's definitely helpful. But like, so in Sword and Shield, they didn't show up on the map, but you had sky beams. Or did they show up on the map? I don't remember anymore. But you had sky beams. But most importantly, there were two different types of sky beams. One for things that were like 5-star raids, and then ones that weren't.
Oh, so the sky beam actually had a difference to it.
Yeah, there was basically two different sky beams, one for the stronger ones and one for everything else.
I will say I'm happy that 7-star or 6-star raids at least show up as like black crystals.
Yeah, that you can at least tell on the map that those are important. But I wish that we could tell 5-star raids as well.
I will say, I kind of wish that the black crystals differentiated themselves from dark crystals.
Yeah.
They do, but yeah,
it's very subtle.
Not the most obvious. Yeah.
Okay. So, we are running out of time. We got about 12 minutes left. So let's talk about building raid Pokemon specifically, and what that entails. Because, ideally, especially for these 6-7 stars, you want level 100 Pokemon, and you want their max EVs and max IVs, or you're gonna have a bad time. And my opinion of that whole system can be for an entirely different episode. But for basically being required, I'm happy that the game makes it kind of simple to make perfect Pokemon. You just have to have enough money and you can do it.
Yeah, it's super easy to train Pokemon to be like what you would basically what VGC players used to use PK Hex for in order to generate Pokemon. You can now just do that legitimately in about 5 minutes in game. You can get a Pokemon, you can change its nature with mints that you can buy. You can buy mints. You can buy ability capsules. You can only get ability patches from raids, but those still aren't the hardest things to get. You can buy vitamins, which can bring EVs all the way up to maximum. You can buy bottle caps for hyper training, which you can do at level 50. So yeah, it's super easy to get a Pokemon perfectly trained for whatever you need. In the case of this of the topics of this podcast, we perfectly train them for raids, which usually mean max HP and either a max attack stat if it's an attacker, or a max defense stat if it's a support.
Yeah, and I built Golden Go based on your suggestion, but really I find myself so far using my Azumarill or my Sylveon, and I haven't made much else yet, but that's kind of because I got tired of reading, which I'll talk about at the end.
I guess to throw my 2 cents into the pot as far as like team building, it definitely feels like building competitive Pokemon, and I have a love-hate with that, where I love the fact that I get to essentially build out a Pokemon for whatever use I want to. At the same time, I kind of dislike that I feel like I have to go to the far end of the extreme spectrum with a Pokemon in order to feel comfortable with 6 stars. I would assume that with 7 stars, not with 6 stars, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so I personally don't like PvP in Pokemon games for mainly the EV, IVs, and just and when you like spend a lot of time making this perfect Pokemon and then it just gets one-shotted and it feels like a waste of time, I hate that so much. But like I mentioned, this game speeds up that process, makes it a lot simpler than it's ever been, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And because it's raid Pokemon, you know more about what to expect, and it seems like what Pokemon to build for raids has been solved, which, which is okay. I like the community aspect of the whole thing. You know, this is the best things you can do, but that's also really boring to me because it's solved.
Well, but they are always discovering like that some Pokemon are, particularly good. Like it's not solved until they've created the best build for every Pokemon and then ranked how they perform.
Well,
So,
I'm sure we'll get to it.
Yeah. I mean,
eventually, but
it's like there's gonna be more of a time investment in that regard. I feel like I feel like the issue that I have with it is like there are obviously some Pokemon that are just not great or anything above 5 stars. And that's fine. But like I feel as though there should be a way to be able to take any sort of Pokemon into 6 and 7 star raids. Obviously not baby Pokemon because that's just stupid, but like, final evolutions.
So,
yeah,
so
that's kind of a good point. That probably any final evolution Pokemon should be viable, even at 6 star. But like, raids really favor bulky Pokemon with power up abilities and healing abilities, and because it's all about sustain and power boost. That's basically the meta of raids.
so
Yep.
so I wanted to add on to what Rylot was saying about how he feels a lot of Pokemon should be able to, and because raids are, to me, seem like they're supposed to be these grandiose things to do, right? And Pokemon's about building your team building. You could say it's building a sentimental relationship with your team, the ones you raise through your adventure. Now, I know not everyone is like that, but to me, my team before I beat the game, or the team I beat the game with, will always share some kind of sentiment with me. And when I take those Pokemon into these raids and they are shit,
Yeah,
it's a bad feeling.
because the Pokemon you brought with you through the story, their EVs are going to be terrible.
Oh yeah,
and
they're
that's
awful.
just that's always the case. And Scarlet and Violet does not do you any favors with being, at least that I've discovered, with being able to fix EVs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like my Meowscarada, I love him, and I would love to take him into raids, but I could breed a perfect one, but that's not the same one.
Exactly.
And I should be able to fix him and take him with me, but I can't. But that's also just a different conversation, I guess, for a different video.
Yeah. If only we could plant berries.
Oh, we can't do that in this one, can we?
No, we can't.
Oh wow. I keep
Like that's my main issue with not being able to fix EVs, is because there's a berry that
lets you do that.
reduces your EVs, but we can't pick and choose it. We just get them randomly,
They can't even
and
buy them.
that's really frustrating.
Okay. So
Anyway, yeah,
let's unless you two have something else to add about building Pokemon, let's move on to the last point of topic today. Okay. So the actual rewards you get for the raids, and is it worth it? And this is going to tie into kind of why I got bored. So the rewards, you get a bunch of candies, a bunch of items, ability capsules, patches, like DJ mentioned, and a lot of these, well, some of these items you can only get from these raids, especially the higher ones, like the Urban Mysticas. You can only get them from the raids, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
5 stars and above.
Yes, and I don't think you get money, but you get items that you can sell.
Yeah.
And so doing the raids, you're doing it to get experience candies, rare candies, all these items, which lets you like level up your Pokemon and just kind of make them better. But they're, in my opinion, it's worth it for a while. But once you've built the raid Pokemon and you've pretty much collected your Pokédex, there's no real reason to continue. And me personally, I have 8 Pokemon left to complete my Pokédex, and I have, a few perfect Pokemon, air quote perfect Pokemon, and I don't know, I just kind of got bored because with the aforementioned shield and and AIs and random people, the raids just kind of got boring to me. And like, yes, the Charizard Events Gate rewarded me with, a bunch of good stuff, but I could only catch the one. And I guess to me, for the amount of trouble that thing is worth, I really wanted to catch more, even though it didn't benefit me to have more. I guess what I'm saying is there wasn't enough reward to keep me going, and it kept me going for a few days post game, but it really died off for me. Go on.
But yeah, the Charizard event raid, those actually had like the best reward.
I know.
As far as but straight up, you could get like 12 to 20 large candies, 4 or 5 extra large candies, a good 10 to 20 calcium.
But I didn't need it anymore.
I mean, you only have like 2 raid Pokemon.
But I didn't need it anymore. And
I mean,
and to me, it stopped being worth it. It was worth it for a while, but then it stopped being worth it. Go on, Rylot.
So, I feel like the problem that it has is that you spend so much investment into making the perfect Pokemon for a raid, but the time investment into making that Pokemon, saying that you have to like breed and whatnot, which for some people 5 minutes, other people could be like a day or two because they're not familiar with it. They're having to learn a bunch of new mechanics, and they're having to go and find these candies elsewhere because they don't have any Pokemon to do the 5 or above. And what it boils down to is that it doesn't feel like it's worth the time investment.
No.
And to throw this into the ring as well, in Sword and Shield, whenever you won a 5-star raid, you also got TMs as a reward.
Well, TRs. But yeah. I kind of miss TRs. I do wish. Yeah, now that I think about it, why don't we get TMs? Because it's not like that would make sense, but we don't get TMs.
This is gonna be the pessimist in me. I feel like it's to have you grinding more.
Probably.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose we do get tons of the the Pokemon's drops that are used to craft TMs, but it's not nearly as helpful.
Yeah.
I just had a personal realization that maybe if I cared about PvP, I would care about doing the raids more to get more stuff. But because I don't care about PvP or Pokemon battling much in general, that's probably was an attribute to why I got bored. because if I was doing PvP, I would want to get more of the stuff.
Actually, one thing that's kind of, I guess it's kind of a reward of doing raids is catching the Pokemon.
Which,
And
yep.
and I gotta say, I'm not even really a big fan of, because their Terra types are weird. They always they tend to have an off Terra type, which, like, basically in all situations, it's not going to be a Terra type you want. For PvP competitive stuff, you're usually either going to want a stab Terra type, or that's already one of your types, so you can get double stab, or a Terra type that gives you coverage or resistance to your normal weaknesses. And for raids, you always want a double stab Terra type.
Yeah, my Bex Caliber, I love him, but his Terra type is fighting.
Yeah, and
It's
while you
pretty bad.
can change Terra types in game,
It's not convenient.
that's probably the hardest thing to do, as far as making a Pokemon, like basically taking any Pokemon off the street and turning it into the perfect Pokemon, quote unquote, is being able to change its Terra type. That's probably the hardest thing, because you need 50 Terra shards of that type, which are probably the hardest thing to get. Well, I mean, aside from some of the rare things like ability patches, or but
Okay.
like it's the only thing that can't be bought, basically, besides ability patches.
Okay. So we're out of time. Is there anything you guys want to add real fast?
This may be a topic for a different video, but I don't feel like Terra Pokemon make good raid bosses. I felt like Dynamax was superior.
You know, Terra. It's it. It's not a great mechanic for raids. No, I don't think it is. And while I didn't play Sword and Shield, having the giant Pokemon come out definitely seems more like a raid.
Yeah, the size thing definitely felt more like a raid. Although I will say that the random type thing of Terra
Makes it
raids,
interesting.
it makes it more interesting, because with Dynamax raids, basically the only thing that you had like to worry about was the fact that they were using like max moves and the shields. That was basically it. Those were the only interesting things about max raid battles.
Okay. So, I'm gonna ask you each a question. Which version of raids do you prefer? And no halvesies, just pick one.
Sword,
Sword.
Sword and Shield,
Okay.
100%.
I'm gonna say Scarlet and Violet.
Okay. Cool. Cool. We got different sides of the coin here. I cannot give an opinion on this one because I only know Scarlet and Violet.
Uh, I also want to throw out there, I feel like Mega Evolution would probably be the
Ooh.
superior raids, because you can have the
Oh, I love it.
Oh, that sounds so good.
because you can have a dual phase where the first phase is you're fighting against its normal type,
Oh
you
my
deplete
God.
its health bar, it mega evolves, and then you go through the second phase.
Hashtag bring back Mega Evolution.
Right?
Okay. Well, that was fun talking about raids. Let's quickly talk about what we're up to before we go. So, uh, uh, I recently got a PlayStation 5 and I've been playing God of War Ragnarok and I've been enjoying it. And then there's aspects of it I have not been enjoying. I have a video. Once I finish the game, I'll be making a video about it. But well, what have you guys been doing or have plans?
I see the panic in his eyes. Um,
you can't see because this is audio. DJ's eyes just widened up.
I will say for me, I've been playing a ton of Skyrim. I've kind of, in the same instance, have kind of gotten bored with Scarlet Violet. Like, it doesn't feel like there's a need for me to continue playing. Aside from completing the live decks or whatever. But yeah, no, I've been playing through Skyrim and it's been a blast.
Yeah, I went back to Bayo 3 before getting the PlayStation. DJ?
Yeah, I kind of started getting bored with Scarlet and Violet now that my form dex is like 95% complete. Was doing some raids, but I've put the game down. I've basically just been catching up on my YouTube backlog and reading some manga backlog.
What's a manga you're reading right now?
Okay, so I guess sure. Let's plug some Shonen Jump.
If you don't have one, that's fine. I do want to plug next week's episode. We will be talking about Avatar: The Way of Water.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I guess one manga that I've been reading. I'm so glad that Hunter x Hunter has come back.
Okay.
Or Hunter x Hunter, if you pronounce the X.
Okay. Give me one more.
There's a new one that I've been reading called hang on, let me find it real quick. Ginka and Gluna. Actually, I think the G is silent in Gluna. I'm not 100% sure about that.
Are you enjoying it?
Yeah, that one's pretty interesting. It's only got like 14 chapters right now, but it's it's kind of fairy tale like if it was more adventure and less guild.
Okay.
So
okay, so manga, Skyrim, God of War for me, and we're all seeing Avatar once or twice by the time we talk about it next week. I'm so excited for that movie. It's 13 years in the making. So, God, I feel old. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.